Let's continue with Apostle Thomas, a name that I'm familiar with, who is famously known to be a doubter. However, John 20 doesn't specifically say he had less faith than the other disciples, but he was just as they were. In order to believe in the resurrection, he had to see the resurrected one. The most important thing in this story is not Thomas's doubt, but it is the Lord's care towards this one disciple. John depicts Thomas as a disciple who had trouble understanding Jesus and grasping his intentions. Nevertheless, he remained loyal to the Lord. He was even prepared to die with the Lord when they were going to Judea to raise Lazarus. Thomas countered the general sense of despondency with his resolve by saying, "Come on, we can't leave the Lord now. Of course we'll go with him." He was an encourager for his fellow disciples, and in this situation showed himself to be a courageous disciple with strong faith. Faith is such an important aspect of a Christian's life that Jesus said, "If you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes." However, the father of the sick child in Mark captured a difficult thing about faith when he said, "Lord, I believe. Help my unbelief." We may have the smallest amount of faith, but it needs to grow and mature, and we need to continually ask God for strength. In a recent service that the Chief Apostle held in France, he provided the congregation with a call to action. Proclaim the gospel and profess our faith. This means telling others we're Christian and being a source of blessing by mutually encouraging one another. We can all be little Thomases, against all odds, against all logic, inspiring everyone around us to carry on. Thomas's source of strength was his faith and his attachment to Jesus. Tap into what you believe. Believe in the victory of the Lord. Believe in what Jesus said. Believe in his return, and that in the end, the Lord will gain victory. Once you know what you believe, attach yourself to the Lord like Thomas did. It's vitally important that we have a good knowledge of the gospel and our doctrine. However, our testimony to others becomes stronger when our attachment to the Lord is unbreakable. The Lord allowed Thomas to seek an answer to his doubts, and that changed everything for Thomas. When Jesus let him touch his wound so he could believe, it was uniquely personal, a moment just between the two of them. Nothing is stopping us from having such encounters with God. Thomas was changed, so much so that it brought him to realization and understanding. Thomas realizes that Jesus is not only someone sent by God, but that he is God when he says to him, "My Lord and my God." We have been critical of Thomas in the past when in fact this story is not so much about him at all, but rather the incredibly approachable God of the New Testament through Jesus Christ, which Thomas discovers in his moment of weakness. Contrast this intimacy with the God of the Old Testament, who is only accessible by a select few. Everyone needs to ask themselves honestly, am I really attached to Christ? If it means we have to suffer a bit, or we're attacked, or if we're mocked, or if it means we'll be ridiculed, it shouldn't matter. Those who are attached to Christ will endure to the end and be saved. That concludes Session 2 for this month's series. Next week, we'll cover how Jesus changed the lives of the disciples on the road to Emmaus. Please turn now to this week's discussion questions in your participant guide.